Steve Jobs' story began in 1955 when he was born in San Francisco to a young, unmarried mother who placed him for adoption. He was taken in by Paul and Clara Jobs, a modest couple who provided him with love, security, and a middle-class upbringing. Growing up in Cupertino, California, Jobs was exposed early to the culture of electronics. His father, a machinist, taught him how to take apart and rebuild devices in their garage. This hands-on education gave Jobs not only technical skills but also an appreciation for craftsmanship and design. As a boy, Jobs was curious, rebellious, and often restless in school. He found it difficult to conform, but his intelligence and creativity shone through. In high school, he met Steve Wozniak, a shy but brilliant electronics whiz who shared Jobs' passion for technology. The two became fast friends, bonded by their curiosity and love for building things. In 1972, Jobs briefly enrolled at Reed College in Oregon but dropped out after one semester, finding traditional education uninspiring. Instead, he continued auditing classes, including calligraphy, which later influenced Apple's focus on beautiful fonts and design. Around this time, Jobs also traveled to India in search of spiritual enlightenment, an experience that deepened his perspective on simplicity and meaning. Back in California, Jobs and Wozniak began tinkering in Jobs' parents' garage, dreaming of making computers affordable and accessible to everyone. Their early project, the Apple I, was a simple machine compared to today's standards, but it was revolutionary for its time. The garage was cramped, with wires, wood, and tools scattered everywhere, but from that clutter emerged a vision: to put technology in the hands of ordinary people. Jobs' ambition, coupled with Wozniak's engineering brilliance, sparked the beginning of something the world had never seen before. It was in that humble garage that Apple Computer was born, a company destined to reshape the world. In 1976, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne officially founded Apple Computer. Their goal was simple but ambitious: to bring computing to everyday people. Their first creation, the Apple I, was sold as a fully assembled circuit board, something unheard of at the time. Priced at $666.66, it attracted hobbyists and computer enthusiasts who were excited by the idea of owning their own personal computer. But it was the Apple II, launched in 1977, that catapulted Apple into success. With its sleek design, user-friendly interface, and ability to display color graphics, it became one of the first highly successful mass-produced personal computers. Sales skyrocketed, and Apple transformed from a garage startup into a booming company almost overnight. Jobs, though not an engineer, had an eye for design and user experience. He pushed for simplicity, elegance, and perfection, often clashing with engineers who thought he was being unreasonable. But Jobs' insistence on excellence became Apple's trademark. He didn't just want to build computers, he wanted to create tools that empowered people to think differently. By 1980, Apple went public, instantly making Jobs a multimillionaire at just 25 years old. The company's success was meteoric, and its culture reflected Jobs' intensity. He was known to be demanding, sometimes harsh, but his passion and vision inspired those around him to create products ahead of their time. The Macintosh project, in particular, became his obsession. Jobs envisioned it as the future of personal computing: intuitive, beautifully designed, and accessible to everyone. Apple's rise captured the imagination of the world. From a small garage to Wall Street fame, Jobs had proven that big dreams and relentless determination could disrupt entire industries. Yet, as Apple soared, the seeds of conflict were already being sown, foreshadowing challenges that would test Jobs in ways he could never have imagined. The 1980s were both thrilling and turbulent for Apple. With the launch of the Macintosh in 1984, Jobs unveiled a product that showcased his vision of simplicity and creativity. The Mac was introduced in a now iconic Super Bowl commercial directed by Ridley Scott, portraying Apple as the liberator of humanity from conformity. The Macintosh itself was revolutionary, featuring a graphical user interface and a mouse, features that made computing intuitive and fun. However, while the Mac dazzled in concept, it struggled in performance and sales. Its high price and limited software library frustrated consumers, and Apple's leadership grew concerned. Jobs, passionate but notoriously difficult, clashed with then CEO John Sculley, a man he had personally recruited from Pepsi. Their relationship soured as differences in vision escalated. By 1985, the board sided with Sculley, and Jobs was stripped of his leadership responsibilities. Humiliated and heartbroken, Jobs eventually resigned from the company he had built from scratch. It was one of the lowest points of his life, a bitter exile from the very creation that defined him. Yet, this setback was also a turning point. Jobs once said, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." Free from the pressures of Apple, he rediscovered his creativity. He founded Next, a new computer company aimed at higher education and business. Though Next computers never became mainstream, they featured advanced software that would later play a crucial role in Apple's future. During this time, Jobs also purchased a small computer graphics division from George Lucas, which he renamed Pixar. What began as a risky investment turned into a groundbreaking animation studio. Pixar's release of Toy Story in 1995 became the world's first fully computer-animated film and a massive success. Jobs' journey showed that even when life throws crushing defeats, new opportunities can emerge from the ashes. The years away from Apple were both challenging and transformative for Jobs. Next, while never commercially successful, was technologically advanced and planted seeds that would later revolutionize Apple. Its operating system became the foundation for macOS, proving that even Jobs' failures held hidden value. Pixar, however, became Jobs' crown jewel during this period. He nurtured the company with patience, believing in the power of storytelling through technology. Against all odds, Pixar turned into a creative powerhouse, producing beloved classics like A Bug's Life, Monsters Incorporated, and Finding Nemo. These films didn't just entertain, they redefined animation, blending artistry with cutting-edge technology. Jobs' belief in innovation and quality paid off, eventually leading Pixar to merge with Disney, making him Disney's largest shareholder. Personally, Jobs also grew during this phase. He married Laureen Powell in 1991, and together they built a family, grounding Jobs in ways he hadn't experienced before. The reckless, fiery young visionary was maturing, learning lessons about patience, teamwork, and resilience. Though he was far from Apple, Jobs' story during this chapter was a reminder that failure isn't the end, it's often a doorway to reinvention. What seemed like devastating losses turned out to be stepping stones that prepared him for an even greater comeback. The world didn't know it yet, but Jobs was about to return to Apple and lead one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history. By the mid-1990s, Apple was crumbling. Once a leader in innovation, the company was now on the brink of bankruptcy. Its products were uninspired, its vision unclear, and its future uncertain. Meanwhile, Jobs' company Next was struggling financially, but its software caught Apple's attention. In 1996, desperate for a solution, Apple acquired Next for $429 million. The deal not only brought in advanced technology but also paved the way for Jobs' return. In 1997, Jobs rejoined Apple, initially as an advisor. But it quickly became clear that his sharp insight and fearless decision-making were exactly what the company needed. Soon, he was back at the helm, ready to save the company he had once been forced to leave. Jobs wasted no time. He slashed Apple's sprawling product line, focusing only on a few core devices. He emphasized simplicity, elegance, and innovation, the principles he had always believed in. His first major move was the launch of the iMac in 1998, a computer that was colorful, playful, and unlike anything on the market. The iMac became a massive success, bringing Apple back into profitability and reintroducing it as a company of bold, creative vision. Jobs' comeback wasn't just about business, it was about redemption. He had been counted out, dismissed, even humiliated. Yet, he returned stronger, wiser, and more determined. His resilience transformed Apple from a failing company into one that would soon dominate industries and reshape culture itself. By the mid-1990s, Apple was in free fall. Once a trailblazer in personal computing, the company was now drowning in poor decisions, an overcomplicated product line, and lack of direction. Competitors were surpassing them, and bankruptcy loomed close. At this critical moment, fate brought Steve Jobs back into the picture. In 1997, Apple acquired Next, the company Jobs had founded after leaving Apple in 1985, mainly for its advanced operating system. The deal wasn't just about software, it also marked Jobs' return. Initially, he came back as an advisor, but soon, his leadership qualities pushed him into the CEO role once again. Jobs wasted no time in making bold, even ruthless, decisions. He slashed Apple's scattered projects, focusing only on a handful of products that mattered. He emphasized simplicity, clarity, and user experience values that had always been at the heart of his vision. In 1998, Apple launched the iMac, designed with striking colors and a fresh, playful look. It wasn't just a computer, it was a statement of creativity. Consumers loved it, and the success of the iMac pulled Apple out of the shadows, marking the beginning of one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history. After stabilizing Apple, Jobs knew that saving the company wasn't enough, he wanted to make it extraordinary again. In 1997, Apple released its iconic Think Different campaign. Featuring black and white images of legendary figures like Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King Jr., and Amelia Earhart, the campaign wasn't about selling products, it was about selling a vision. Jobs wanted people to see Apple not just as a technology company but as a symbol of creativity, innovation, and rebellion against mediocrity. The message was clear: Apple was for the misfits, the dreamers, the ones who dared to challenge the status quo. This branding redefined the company's identity and reconnected it with people's emotions. Soon after, Jobs' relentless pursuit of sleek design and simplicity led to groundbreaking products: the Power Mac G3, iBook, and G4 Cube. But more importantly, Jobs was laying the foundation for devices that would change the world. Think Different wasn't just a slogan, it became a philosophy that fueled Apple's rebirth and inspired millions worldwide. The early 2000s became the stage for Apple's boldest innovations. In 2001, Jobs introduced the iPod, a pocket-sized music player that could hold 1,000 songs. Simple, elegant, and revolutionary, the iPod changed how people consumed music forever. The famous slogan, "1,000 songs in your pocket," captured its magic. Apple didn't stop there. With iTunes and the iTunes Store, Jobs built an ecosystem that transformed the music industry, making digital distribution mainstream. By uniting hardware, software, and content, Apple became more than a computer company, it became a lifestyle brand. Stores were launched too. Apple Stores, designed with minimalist architecture, gave customers not just products but experiences. Crowds lined up for launches, creating a cult-like following. Jobs' vision was not about gadgets but about creating tools that empowered people to express themselves. The iRevolution had begun, and it was clear that Jobs wasn't just rebuilding Apple, he was changing culture itself. If the iPod was revolutionary, the iPhone was earth-shattering. In 2007, Jobs stepped onto the stage in his signature black turtleneck and jeans and announced a device that was three things in one: a phone, a music player, and an internet communicator. The audience gasped as he revealed the first iPhone. It wasn't just a product launch, it was the birth of a new era. The iPhone's sleek design, touchscreen interface, and App Store ecosystem transformed communication, entertainment, and even entire industries. Overnight, Apple became not just a leader in technology but a cultural powerhouse. People no longer saw phones as simple communication tools, they became lifelines, personal assistants, and creative canvases. Competitors scrambled to catch up, but Apple's combination of design, software, and vision kept it ahead. The iPhone wasn't just successful, it changed how humanity connected with the world. For Jobs, it was proof that innovation wasn't about following trends but creating them. Even as Apple soared, Jobs faced his greatest personal battle, cancer. First diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer in 2003, he continued to work tirelessly while undergoing treatments. His health declined over the years, but his determination never wavered. In 2010, despite visible weakness, he appeared on stage to unveil the iPad, a device that bridged the gap between laptops and phones. True to form, Jobs turned yet another idea into a global phenomenon. By 2011, his condition worsened, and he stepped down as Apple's CEO, leaving the company stronger than ever. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away, but his influence continues to shape the world. His journey from a garage to building the most valuable company in the world wasn't just about business, it was about daring to dream and refusing to settle. His words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish," remain a guiding light for innovators, dreamers, and anyone who dares to make a dent in the universe. Steve Jobs' legacy lives on, not just in Apple's products, but in the spirit of possibility he ignited across generations.